This is the Boardroom Exchange. From Macro Capital.
So, Garth Curry, thanks for joining us. Portfolio manager at Sanlam at the moment, and before that, managing director at Merrill Lynch, America. Actually, tell us how you got into all of finance and this game.
So, Conrad, it's an interesting story. I mean, I worked initially. I went straight out of school into South Africa, 2 years national service, and straight after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I ended up working for a bank. Standard Bank is one of the biggest banks in South Africa, and they had an investment division. And I ended up counting money in a casino, funny enough, and called the Wild Coast. And in there, I got an interest in shares, and I've always read up about shares. You know, my parents gave me some pocket money and showed me how to invest in shares when I was a child. And when I was in the casino, all the stockbrokers' wives would come and have tea with me and teach me about the market. So I learned an amazing amount of information from them, and I ended up going back to moving from the beach and the Natal coast of South Africa back to the Johannesburg, where the stock exchange is, and working for a company called Davis Borkham Hare. Davis Borkham Hare, within 3 years, I became a director, and Merrill Lynch decided to expand into emerging markets and bought out Davis Borkham, and they made me managing director of the private client division. So that's when I started working for Merrill's. And Merrill's were a fascinating training ground because we reported into London and into New York, and we traveled quite extensively overseas to a lot of board meetings and so on in New York. And that's how I got into Merrill Lynch.
At what point does it, and if it does at all, does it go, okay, this is, it's gone from, millions and hundreds of millions, billions, right? And you're going, that's a lot of money, right? How do you deal with that as an advisor, as a portfolio manager, as someone who's got the responsibility of not only growing but managing the downside of significant amounts of capital? How do you deal with the pressure and stress of all of that? If any.
It comes down, there's always different reasons. It comes down to relationships. The whole game about investing is building a relationship with your clients, with your staff, and everybody's important in that network, from the tea lady when she brings in the tea, to your receptionist lady when she introduces the client, to you maintaining a relationship. And on that relationship is built his trust. It doesn't matter if the individual has $10,000 or $1 million or $10 million. It's still an individual relationship. And if you see that as a relationship, as every person has a relationship with people around them, if you handle that in the manner that and find out the people that you don't always click with everybody, but you manage to click with some of those that are in the game. You've got to set yourself investment goals. You've got to set yourself parameters of who do you want to deal with in this game.
One thing to differentiate, though, I suppose, is when you're managing someone's money, they can trust you and they can have the strongest relationship with you. But it's somewhat unrewarding in the sense that at the end of the day, it does come down to the returns that you produce. Now, in the case of the market, doesn't provide you with the environment where no matter what you do, within the mandate that you have, you can't eke out a return, or you've saved them a lot of downside, but they're not so happy with the minimal upside considering the market. How do you deal with managing a client's expectations?
It might take a year to get to know a client. It takes 3 years to build a business, and 5 years before you're really making good money, because you're in a long-term relationship, a long-term game. It takes 3 to 5 years to on the investment side and to get into the markets. And the same thing comes down to looking after people's money and investment. Is initially they might give you, call it $1 million, but by the time you get to know them after 3 to 5 years, if you've done a good job and they understand the relationship, and the only way you do that is by keeping the client informed of what you can achieve and what you can't do. So I think it was a book called Raving Fans. It said, deliver what the client's expectations are plus 1%. And often that 1% is communication. So don't see a client necessarily. I've learned that for me, an average portfolio manager can maybe look after 120 relationships. Some can only look after 90, depending, because there's a lot of administration and ticking the boxes and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So between 90 and 120 relationships you can have. So if you can look after 90 clients, as an example, so let's call it 100 clients, you can have 100 clients of $10,000, or you can, because everyone needs as much information and contact as the next one, or you can look after 100 clients of $1 million plus or $5 million and pick a level. So what often works is you work in partnership with people that are also trying to get up into the business, and every year, the old rule is 80% of your return is from 20% of your clients.
You mentioned, 100 people with $10,000 or 100 people with $5, $10 million. What about 1 million people with $10,000? Do you think that there's any merit to the transition that we're seeing in these scalable business models where people are, I guess they're trying to focus on volume and scale rather than the individual relationship? Or do you think that still has to...
No, that's definitely part of it. So you get to a stage where you choose your niche within the market. So ETFs are definitely utilized even by ourselves in our core portfolios. If I feel that I don't have the full expertise to go into India as an example, I'll use an India fund. Or if I wanted to get into an ETF and I wanted to get in Japan, but I want to spread it, and depending on the amount of money that you want to put in, because of costs and brokerage and getting into that, you definitely need to utilize ETFs or managed funds. And so there's a place for all of that where you also have. So it depends on the size of assets under management and what you're going to manage, and the industry is finding its way because it also comes down to costs. And if I think of it, what do you want to manage, and who do what makes you comfortable in sleep? You got to sleep well at night. Your clients have got to sleep well at night. That you're managing it within the parameters and the goals that you've set for your clients and for yourselves.
Firstly, how crazy and how hard is it to work your way up? Because I think a lot of people who aren't successful and have all of these responsibilities and pressure and people who aren't successful, who look at it from an idealistic standpoint, go, oh, I really, really want that. I want to be that 1%, because it's effectively who you are, Garth. You are that 1%. This is the type of people that we have on the show. Is it worth it? And, I guess, what were the challenges and what did you have to face to get there? Because you didn't fall into it.
Yeah. So sometimes you get lucky.
That's for sure.
And you create your own luck. Someone said to me, how do you get there? Is that you work twice as hard as the next guy. So you have to put your time into it. And in doing that, it doesn't just necessarily mean you must study. You've got to do the exam. So coming to Australia, I had to do the Reg 146 and went through all the Reg 146 because you need to adapt to the area that you're in, and you need to understand the background rules. And ASIC is important in Australia. I've done the New York Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, South African Stock Exchange exams. In the environment, you need to know what's happening in those markets. So you need to adapt. But I think what's crucial in building the steps is you've got to set your goals and set them higher than you anticipated that you're going to achieve. What do I want to achieve? So you set your goals of where you want to be. Okay. So I also got managing private clients in the private client division. I was very much involved in the military, and even in the military when I started off, I ended up as a major, and I did a lieutenant colonel's course, and I did 16 years of camps in South Africa because we were forced to do some camps. But I just saw the benefits of being able to be a leader in that environment and helping the people, because I love doing things and I love working. But you also got to learn to switch off, and so, which is harder. So what I do to do that is you physically, when you're going home, you're flat out on the markets and you're busy and you're dealing with clients. You get home to the kids and the wife, leave the work in your briefcase in the boot.
Wow, right.
And find the balance of sport, find the balance at, from a religion point of view, whatever religion you're with, and find the downtime, because you do need downtime and be able to sleep well to actually to do the work.
How have you, and please, whether it's from military experience or talk to me however you like, as a lieutenant, I'll take it. How do we overcome those challenges where we know we need to not do that, but that split moment? How have you found, how have you overcome that?
That's a very important thing. So I can sometimes walk into a meeting, and within the first 30 seconds, I can tell if we're going to bond or we're going to click, or we...
Hopefully ours was a good impression.
because you have an intuition.
Yeah.
You've got a built-in intuition. Every time you go and meet someone, you can see, we're going to give each other time or we're not. And so when you walk into a meeting, and it builds up, I go in and I'm training some young portfolio managers that are with me, and I'm training, and the guy's talking off on a tangent for 45 minutes. You've lost a client in the first 5 minutes because you're talking about something he's not interested. Where if walk into his room and he's got airplanes on the wall and he's got, photographs of wild animals and so on, concentrate on that, or his family. So when you walk into the environment, you can immediately recognize what is his interests, because it's the client's interest that you're trying to prick, or the other person's interest to see what he's interested in. So I could tell you the military story, and I can go mad on a military story, but I would do that with my military friends and the guys that are interested in the military. But it gives you the discipline. So to me, the most important thing that I got from that was that in the military, you always got a plan. You got to have a introduction or preparation. Then you go through the process and you actually implement it, and then you have a follow-up. And the follow-up is whether you give client feedback, and is it a correct investment? Do you change them? And you need to have that possibly quarterly instead of half yearly or yearly, like often people do. Is you got to readdress that. So I just found, for me, what's worked is I work on Sunday evening. I prepare my week. What am I going to meet? Who am I going to see? What is my intention in meeting them? And where am I going to add value to those people? And then you do that also. What I want to achieve on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, and where do I want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? And it doesn't always work out. But if you set the plan up front, from a military point of view, you will get there in the next 3 to 5 years. So how many clients? How much money do I want to manage? Whose money do I want to manage? What is the target client? Am I looking after 1 million clients of 10,000? Then I have to do a fund or an ETF and list an ETF. Or am I going to look after some ultra high net worth clients of $3 million each, and I'm going to look after 40 clients?
Fantastic, thanks for that. We've got time for one more question. It's a question that we want to ask everyone on the show. For yourself, it'll be interesting because you've got so many different environments that you've had meetings or boardroom meetings with. I suppose Merrill Lynch, Sanlam, even in the military circumstance. What would you say would be your most craziest or most entertaining meeting that you've been a part of?
Probably the most entertaining meeting I've been to is I've been to the Berkshire Hathaway AGM 3 times. So I've been over to see Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And the first time we went there, and Bill Gates was there as well. And it's one of the craziest meetings because everybody flocks to Omaha, and you go and sit amongst the cornfields. I think there's 60 plus golf estates around Omaha, so it's very much in the middle of America. Put a pin in the middle of America and you get there. So if I'm in New York and we get to the Berkshire meeting, is 1 hour, Oprah Winfrey interviews him and says all lots of advertising. It's in a football stadium. There's 12,000 people attending the AGM. Okay, the rest under the football stadium is a fantastic a showcase of every company that he owns, giving selling items and books and Geico and everybody that's selling underneath there. So attending that, and then there's to answer questions. There's 12 posts in and around the stadium that you can stand up to a mic and ask Charlie Munger and Bill Gates on anything in the investment world. I mean, that's a crazy meeting. And a lot of people go there because if you've got a Berkshire Hathaway share, I think they're $407,000 a share now, the A shares. They've gone up nicely.
Expensive ticket, isn't it?
When I went, I think it was about $80,000.
Right.
So they've really run up. But just to have one share, you get a 20% discount on a watch or clothing or anything that you want to buy. So some people just go for that while they're there for the weekend on the discounts from his stores.
We'll just buy a stock for it, maybe.
Yeah, buy stock. But his key focus is feeding back on information that he's experienced. And I mean, he's 91. I think he's got one coming up this Saturday. It's been fascinating. So Charlie Munger and Berkshire Hathaway, and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates sitting in a room, sharing the information that they can give you. That was a crazy meeting. You make a lot of notes, and you come back to the desk, and you say, right, let's listen to what is the most important rule that he says. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1.
I think that's it. I think there's a lot we can learn from successful people. That's what this show is about. And so Garth Curry, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing with your experiences with us. Very much appreciate it. We'll have to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Really great meeting you. Thanks so much.